Coming up on Theater Talk, you and your brother David had the perfect combination of being involved but standing back. You weren't just flies on the walls.
That's right. Fly on the wall is the wrong thing. You have to be able to use your sensibilities in your poetry, if you want to put it that way, so that in that kind of interaction, you are able to get people to be themselves.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
When you say Vegas, Vegas, you're saying the sky's always blue.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post. And you know, Susan, my favorite musical of the season so far is really the only genuine new musical comedy we have on Broadway called Honeymoon in Vegas, a really delightful show at the Nederlander Theater. It stars the very, very talented young Rob McClure, who we know from Chaplin, and Clive Barnes Award winner.
Yes.
Clive was a good friend of ours in this show. And it also stars an actor I've had great admiration for, not only from his work in television, but since I saw him play Rocky in The Iceman Cometh
Yes.
with Kevin Spacey, about 1999, I think.
99, yeah.
Tony Danza. And that's really, because of course I knew you from the famous TV shows you did, but I thought, boy, that Tony Danza, he's not just a sitcom actor. Yeah. That guy's a serious actor to do Iceman Cometh.
Boy, I like this show.
Well, gentlemen,
It showed your range, that one.
Well, you know what's funny about that part? They called me up in California and said, would I fly to New York to read for the part? I said, look, I got my family here. I'm not reading. I'm not going to fly to read. So then months went by and I didn't hear anything. And then he came to California. Evidently, all through New York, in the New York area, he couldn't find Rocky.
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, he couldn't find Rocky, so he came to California. I read for it, and he gave me the part.
So let's talk about the show for a little bit. Rob, have you been with it since early incarnation?
No, I because it's been kicking around for about a decade now.
As musicals do
in
these days.
development.
Yes, in development, yeah. And then my first exposure to it was an audition in the interim before Chaplin's workshop and Chaplin getting a Broadway theater.
Right.
I auditioned for Honeymoon, and it was the first script in a long time that I read and laughed out loud in my house. So I went in and I auditioned, and Tony was there, and I read with Tony, and he went back behind the table, and he was eating a sandwich. I was nervous. It was Tony Danza. And he was eating a sandwich behind the creative team, and the creative team all looked to each other like, do we need anything else? He's sung all the songs. He's done all the scenes. And Tony puts his sandwich down and goes, and I ran out of the room. I called my mother and said, I don't care if I get the part. Tony Danza gave me the
No, I just, by the way, when he read, I was, I'm like, oh, we got to have this kid. This is the kid. He's the, and of course, oh no, he's going to go do this other show. And so I was crestfallen. I really was. Because he was terrific. I mean, I've said this many times, and he's probably sick of hearing it, but I don't like him. Actually, he aggravates me because he sort of reminds me how I used to feel. When I was
young?
Yes.
With a whole world ahead of you?
Oh, I swear. That's amazing.
But you can sing and dance, of course. Were you looking for a good old-fashioned musical comedy in which you could show off this part of you that you love doing, the singing and the dancing and all that?
Well, you kind of hope for something like that, but, I had just, I did The Producers, and so I had that in my mind.
Right.
But I was sitting home, I'll be honest with you. I was sitting home not thinking about, I was doing a one-man act. I was just doing what I do. And then I got a call that Jason Robert Brown wanted to come and meet me, and he wanted to talk to me about this musical. I was like, well, that'd be great, Jason Robert Brown. And then he came to my house, and I remember, I think I told you this, I remember thinking, as soon as you meet Jason, you kind of think, geez, charm's not going to work with this guy. Yeah. So you really, was...
He's a pretty serious guy.
Pretty serious guy. And I thought I was going to have to sing and show him that. He said, no, I got you a record. I made one record, and he said, I got your CD, and I know you can do this. Let me play something for you. And he played that the little verse from Out of the Sun, you know, when we're young, we think that we're invincible. And it's just the most beautiful little verse. It sounds like it's right out of the American songbook, you know.
To me, the surprise is actually Jason Robert Brown's score, because I'm used to the Jason Robert Brown of the very serious, parade about the lynching of a Jewish guy in the South and all that. And I have friends who went to summer camp, theater camp with Jason Robert Brown, and they would be doing Bye Bye Birdie and Annie, and he would be playing his teen suicide song.
Yeah,
But here he's come out with a really peppy, old-fashioned, kind of Sammy Cahn style score.
It feels that way too. It really does. I mean, and you know, the other night, and now we've been doing this since November. The other night, there's an elevator, so I have to go down to the basement sometimes to ride up. And I went down, and I caught some crew guys down there dancing to the music. And I was like,
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell anybody.
Holy crap, I got you guys bad, you know.
If I ask he's dancing, the score is good.
That's the kind of score it is. And you know what else? You know, every night I go out and I try to come up with a joke to give the band. Because what's great about our show is the band's on the stage. They're a character in the show. They have costume changes. It's wonderful.
Right.
So I go out every night and I talk to them, you know. I do some stupid. Last night's joke was... They're bad. Don't get me wrong. They're two cannibals eating a clown. One cannibal says to the other, "Hey, you think this tastes funny?" Anyway, but then
and then they have to laugh because it's Tony Danza, the star of the show.
But then
He does one every show. Cut him a break.
Yeah, I'm running out of material. But they're just having so much fun playing it.
Here's one for you. Screwdriver goes to the bar. The bartender says, "Hey, you know, we've got a drink named after you." The Screwdriver says, "You've got a drink named Ted?" Hey, I can match bad joke for bad joke.
Hey, did you take a shower? Why, is there one missing? Come on.
What did the 0 say to the 8?
Nice belt.
That's an oldie but a goodie.
Sorry. Look what I've started.
That's all right.
But anyway, getting back to the score, last week, my entrance is with my back to the audience and an umbrella, and I turn around, and there's a plink, and I have a downbeat, and I sing. And last week I turned around, plink, and saw Stephen Sondheim in the 5th row.
Oh.
And then I had the downbeat to process that he was here and start to sing. And I was so taken aback and so thrilled, and so we start to go. And it was the most rewarding thing to have him in my periphery, because he would blatantly show his approval for Jason's lyrics.
Yes, he's on record liking the score and liking Jason's.
He would just there would be an internal rhyme or something fun, and Tony would sing, "You said you were broke, except you were in C. You've got currency," and I'd see in my periphery. I go, "Oh,
So
he gets it. He gets it."
you can see the people in the fifth row.
You can see.
Sure. And it just depending on the
It
lighting.
depends if it's Stephen Sondheim.
Yes.
No.
You were a boxer.
Yes.
Right.
Not a few fights.
Yeah. Any of your dancing ability come from the boxing? Is that a big part of the way you move?
No, when I was a fighter, I was a plotter. I just was like a guy that, tried to not take a backward step. I tried to make the fight, I tried to be on top of you. So no, I wasn't that. I used to have a guy tell me, "You got good legs, why don't you use them?" I just didn't, that wasn't my idea of fight.
So at what point, you're from Long Island, right?
I'm from Brooklyn.
And
then,
Long Island, or some.
Yeah, 65 to Long Island.
You were in high school in
Malvern.
Right.
Malvern,
yeah,
Long Island.
right. And so when did the boxing come in?
I got out of college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And I just was, wandering around, and a couple of my friends entered me in the Golden Gloves. Because in New York, you just fill out the entry blank in the news, and I got a notice to turn up for my physical. I at the time I thought I got drafted, but I went and I did pretty well, and I thought I found the thing that I wanted to do with my life. And then I turned pro. I fought 2 years in the Golden Gloves. I didn't win it. I got close, but then I turned pro, and I had 15 fights. I won 12, so...
Were you singing all this time, too? Were you always a singer in the shower?
Well, yeah. I was always a singer in the shower.
So how did you go from boxing to taxi?
How it was discovered in Gleason's gym on 30th and 8th Avenue.
Really?
Yeah.
Famously, yeah.
A guy walked in, and it's a whole circuitous. You got to, it takes another 3 shows, but somehow I end up on Taxi. And then the last year of Taxi, to bring it back, we did a show called Fantasy Cab. And in the show, we had we had, you know, everybody had a fantasy. My character's fantasy was to be smart. I was going to go to the GSOG meetings, the GOSG meetings, the gathering of smart guys. Anyway, Mary Lou's was to be a Broadway star. And so we did Lullaby of Broadway. And in it, we pretended to tap dance. I was about 32. And I said, gee, you know, I'm such a Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, you know, both Jangles. I want to know how to do this. So I went and I found this guy. And last night, by the way, his name's Pat Rico. I find the only Italian tap dance teacher. And I'm doing some of the stuff that he taught me in the show. Wow. You know, some of the break. And then last night, his nephew came to see the show. So it's like, it's just the most amazing thing.
Now, you were a boxer, too, weren't you, Rob, when you were
in Chaplin?
Right, of course.
And yeah, by the way, sometimes we fool around, and he actually does
And he does the, the Chaplin bit.
Oh, yeah. They don't work.
They don't. No, I was going to say, can you get a punch? No.
He knows how to get around
I
them.
just could see you doing this with him, and he's just standing back, and then boom.
That's exactly
what
the
it is.
routine.
Basically
We're like Spike and the little dog from Looney Tunes. Like I'm the little Looney Tune Chihuahua going around Tony Danza.
Now, did you say you're from Milwaukee?
No. We were just out in Milwaukee on tour with Avenue Q, but I'm originally from Jersey, right across the bridge.
Oh, so did you grow up coming to see all the Broadway shows? Were you always in love with this racket?
I was a late bloomer. I did the shows in high school because they were fun, not because I thought I was good at it, but it was just another extracurricular thing to put on a college resume. And then I did the first show. I was Ching of Ching and Ling in Anything Goes before they were politically correct Luke and John, before they made that change. Yeah. Remember that? And I had a great time. And it was something about the collaborative nature of putting on a show that I fell in love with. And then a friend of mine said that this little red firehouse theater called the Bergen County Players in Oradell, New Jersey, is doing a play about killing people and putting them in meat pies and people eat them. And my 14-year-old brain thought that was the coolest thing I had ever heard. And I went and I auditioned, and I sat with the woman next to me. I said, hey, I don't know the show. What part should I go in for? And she said, probably Toby. I said, okay, great. So I went up. I said, hi, I'm Rob McClure. I'm auditioning for Toby. And I proceeded to sing Stars from Les Mis. I did not get the part. But I knew the show was happening. So 3 weeks later, I go back, I see opening night, and the moment you find out that the beggar woman was Sweeney Todd's wife, spoiler alert, I wept. And I remember thinking, tomorrow there's going to be 100 people there who know that's coming, who don't know that that's coming. Yeah. I have to be there. And it was every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 3 months, and I saw every performance. It was $12 a pop. I rode my bike.
Nuts. He's nuts. I told you he's nuts.
But there was something about, by the end of it, I wasn't watching the show anymore. I was watching the audience watch. Yeah.
So my story starts in the gym. Tell them your story.
Well, I baked bagels for 4 years in high school at 3:30 in the morning because I wanted to do community theater at night. So I was doing that. I get my big break in the ensemble of Carousel at the Paper Mill Playhouse. I share a dressing room with Eddie Bracken, which we could talk about.
Oh, tell him, wait, you got to tell him that story first. Oh, no, wait, this is too good.
I move into the dressing room at Paper Mill Playhouse, and there's Eddie Bracken. He's 86. It's the last show he did before he passed away. Yeah. And I'm playing Enoch Snow Jr. He's playing the Starkeeper. And he says, I'm getting a kick out of sharing a dressing room with a young guy. He said, I did a lot of movies as a kid, but my first theater show was a two-man show. I was 16, and the man I was in the show with was in his 80s at the time. I thought, that's amazing. He said, yeah, it's bringing back a lot of memories. You know, he was in the cast of Our American Cousin on stage when Abraham Lincoln was shot. Eddie Bracken did a show with a cast member of Our American Cousin. And I didn't believe him. He brought in the playbill. Anyway, so that show ended, and I wanted to stay at the Paper Mill Playhouse. I never wanted to leave. So I got a job in the box office thinking that would be a good career move. So I was sitting there selling tickets, and they're doing the production of I'm Not Rappaport, co-production with the Coconut Grove in Miami, the Fords in Washington, and the Paper Mill. It's with Judd Hirsch and Ben Vereen. I auditioned for it. I don't get it. It goes to Miami, it goes to D.C., and now it's coming to Paper Mill. And the kid who was understudying was from Florida. Said, I don't want to go all the way to Jersey, so for $200 a week, non-equity. So he dropped. They called me and said, hey, do you want to understudy the part? Oh. And I said, well, I make more money in the box office.
Yeah, right.
Can I understudy from the box office? And if you just call my phone extension and you go on,
I'm here. I'm on site.
I'm here. So they let me. So I'm understudying the show from the Paper Mill Playhouse box office, and 2 weeks into the run, Roy Miller and Angela Del Rossi walk into the box office and say, the show's transferring to Broadway, and we're bringing everyone, and here's your equity card. And 2 months later, I was in a dressing room on Schubert Alley doing a Herb Gardner play. And I thought if I ever got to Broadway, it was going to be, how to apply for a job. I was going
Right.
Suddenly I was playing a villain in a straight play, and just with Judd Hirsch. I mean, small world.
Yeah. Of course. And they were the whole Taxi crowd was there on opening night because James L. Brooks was seated right near me.
Jim Brooks came. Jim Burroughs came. The director came. Danny and Rhea, Mary Lou, Chris, Carol.
I love him throwing
everybody
down
but
first
Andy
name.
Kaufman.
Oh, my brain is out.
And Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yeah.
I saw.
Jeff, right. Oh.
Yeah, and they brought Pat Birch out, and she made us look like. And Mary Lou and Jeff, they could do a time step a little bit. But I just said, I got to learn how to do this. And then I got nuts. I was totally crazy about it. I got to the point where I had a piece of plywood in my car. And I would pull it out, and my friends would be like, "No, please, not again," And for a while, I had everybody in the cast of Taxi and Who's the Boss in taking lessons. We'd give up lunch on Wednesday and have a lesson, But then
Is he like this at the Honeymoon show?
Yes.
He runs everybody's lives.
Yes.
And makes them...
No. What's so amazing is that I thought that I got to the theater early. Mm-hmm. Whenever I get to the theater, he's already there on stage running his tap break over and over.
His plywood board.
basically.
Is there a benefit to getting there early?
Yeah. First of all, you don't have to go through the stage door. You can walk right into the theater. I think I just like to get there. I like to see what's going on.
There's nowhere else he'd rather be.
There's nowhere else I'd rather be. It's really true. I mean, I'll tell you something. I was thinking about this. One of the things that fame does to you, and I was famous when fame was rarefied air. Before there was
reality shows.
Right, it was there was only 3 networks. They only did a certain amount of movies. You knew everybody, by the way.
And you were somebody who was famous who actually knew how to do something.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
Here's the extra 10. But anyway, so fame has an effect on you. It conditions you to be self-conscious. Because people come up to you, they're looking at you, you feel it. I'm home sometimes, I'm thinking, but on the stage and in that place, I don't know, it's like you're exempt from that, especially when you're on stage. But, once you get up there, it's...
And then they're looking at a character.
And
they might say, we know Tony Danza, but you're not playing Tony Danza. You're not playing
you don't have that the cloak. You don't have that.
This issue of fame and when you had it young, because Rob seems to be on his way to having quite a successful career. Did you have that moment that sometimes happens to young people especially, where it all just goes to your head and you think you're the greatest thing in the world?
Well, all right. So first of all, my mother used to say, big shot. When you introduced me to Sinatra, then you're a star. Yeah. By the way, I did. But wait, here a real quick story. So my second year at Taxi, I think who I am, and I'm a big star. I mean, that's like a
Taxi
big
was
star.
huge.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I call up my father in Brooklyn, and he says, "Why don't you come to Brooklyn? I come back to Brooklyn. Come see me." I said, "Dad, it's so hard for me now. I gotta go there. People want my picture, want my autograph. It's just hard." He says, "Would you cut the baloney?" And he said something else. Cut the baloney and come to Brooklyn. I said, "But Dad, nobody's gonna bother you. Stop the baloney. Come to Brooklyn." So all right, you'll see. So I go. I go in on a Wednesday night. So nobody will see me. Of course, I take the biggest limousine I could find. He's living in 2 rooms over Max's Furniture Store in Brooklyn on Fulton Street, Nichols Avenue. I go up, and I spend the night with my father. It was great, Next day, my friend Joey Mook comes over. And Joey says to me, we should paint your father's apartment. I said, that's a great idea, Joe, but where are we going to get the paint? He says, we'll walk down Fulton Street, right under the L. There's a Pittsburgh paint store. I said, Joey... Me walk down Fulton Street. Come on, it's too hard for me. He says the same thing. Cut the baloney. Let's go get the paint. So all right, I'm gonna bite the bullet. What the hell? So I go downstairs. We go out to Fulton Street. It's a beautiful spring day. It's like kids riding bikes, playing handball, women breastfeeding babies. It's bedlam in Brooklyn. Okay, walk out. Nobody. Wait. Nobody looks at me. I can't even, I'm to the point where I'm making eye contact with people, like trying to, nobody notices me. People are saying hello to Joe. Hey, Joe, how you doing? Not even saying it. And it's flipping me out. And I'm really flipping out. And we walk, I don't know, 3 blocks to the paint store. We get in the paint store. The guy shakes up our paint, right? We get online. And there's a 12 and a 13-year-old in front of me. But nobody in the paint store says anything to me. It's like, I'll think, nothing. I'm like, oh, this is like the Twilight Zone. So there's a 12 and 13-year-old on the line in front of us. Mm-hmm. They were buying airplane glue, but that's another story. Anyway, I say to myself, these kids will know who I am, And I do something. I just give the kid the look, He looks up at me. He's the best actor in the world, maybe, because if he didn't, there's not an ounce of recognition. He looks up, he looks back down. And I can't take it. That's it. And I find myself saying something I never thought I'd say, and I hate when people say it. But I said to the kid, hey, don't you know who I am? And the kid says, I swear to God, the kid says, yeah, I know you are, but your father told us not to bother you. So you get your comeuppance.
That's going to be what it's like for you, Rob. The next time you go see something at the Paper Mill Playhouse.
God. So funny.
The show is Honeymoon in Vegas at the Nederlander Theater, starring Rob McClure and Tony Danza. Great performers and very good talk show guests, which is a skill you've got to learn in this business. Thanks for being our guest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
What?
Hey, Mother, it's the Maysles!
Did you know, I mean, when you the first time you walked into Grey Gardens and you saw Big Edie and Little Edie and you looked around, you said, this is gold. This is the movie we got to make.
Yeah. Pretty much that way, because right away there was so much mystery attached to it.
Yeah.
And even once you've seen the film, there's still a lot of mystery. So that's exactly what you want.
Did you ever feel, though, while you were taping, boy, this woman thinks we're going to get her out of here. This woman thinks that we're an opportunity to Did you ever feel kind of uncomfortable about the delusion she had about you?
Actually, in the largest sense, we did get them out of there, in that they've got the movie.
Right. It's true. It's true.
And they got out of,
you gave her what she wanted, which was to be a star.
Touché, all right.
They got out of there exactly on their own terms, being exactly themselves. No different, no better, no worse.
Isn't there a part of you that knows, though, that she does think this movie will make me and will get me out? And are you kind of not playing into that delusion of hers in some way?
I wasn't worried about the film hurting them in any way.
You weren't?
No, not at all.
Not making them grotesque and...
Because both my brother and I were so fond of them, so respectful of them, and so much, as we always are, concerned that all we have to do is tell the truth. But there may be some times where it's too embarrassing, and then we either stop filming or save it for the editor to cut later on.
There's a wonderful commentary track, and one of your editors makes the point that you and your brother David had the perfect combination of being involved but standing back. You weren't just flies on the walls.
That's right. Fly on the wall is the wrong thing. You have to be able to use your sensibilities in your poetry, if you want to put it that way, so that in that kind of interaction, you are able to get people to be themselves.
Also, they said you were always there. I mean, that you got there early in the morning and you just kept rolling no matter what.
Yeah.
Even when the house caught on fire, you kept rolling.
That's
And then
right.
you helped put it out in the second part there.
That's right.
But when you come to the point, though, where you say, this is, as you said, this is almost too difficult, too personal, maybe we should stop filming. It's hard to imagine, looking at the movie Grey Gardens, that it could have gotten any weirder or more grotesque than what you shot. Can you give us an example of something where you thought, we've got to turn the camera off or turn away? This is just beyond where we can even go.
Actually, there's a moment in the film where Mrs. Beale gets up and she doesn't have half of her clothing
Yeah,
is
her
missing.
You will know back to the bathing suit.
And right away, as soon as I realized that, I moved the camera away, and it happens to hit the mirror.
Yes.
And we end up with a view of both my brother and myself.
Do you plunge into research of the backgrounds of the people you're filming, or do you want to come at them without necessarily knowing all about the past and trying to solve all the mysteries and just allowing it to unfold right there?
I ran across a quotation from Orson Welles the other day in which he says that in a fiction film, the director is God. Mm-hmm. In a non-fiction film, God is the director. So we leave it to God.
When you say Vegas, you're saying the sky's always blue. London's too old,
And Cleveland ain't pretty.
and we got nicer hookers than Jersey City. There's a whole lot of love in Nevada, just waiting for you. So come to Las Vegas,
What I say?
Las Vegas. Lead the way to Las Vegas. The land where dreams come true.
Come on, Las Vegas.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, plus public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.